Hello, hello, friends. How are we doing? Can you hear me okay? Let me know in the chat. It's always kind of worrisome when you go on solo. You never really know if anybody can hear you. So let me know in the chat. Hold on, let me just make sure I've got everything working. I think I do. All right, cool. Let's see who is here. TJ. TJ, are you still here, TJ? Kamikaze card collector and Ryan McClanahan. Good to see you, buddy. Guys, this is just a little like impromptu lunch thing. So we're probably not going to have a lot of people on, and that is perfectly okay. It's the middle of the work week. I get it. People are busy, and this is one of a million different sports card live things that pops up every day now. But I love it. I like to watch all the different stuff. All right, let's see what we've got here. TJ, where is everyone? I can't be the only one. All right. Ooh, this is a juicy debate. Let's bring up the comparison and legacy of Tom Brady versus Michael Jordan. What if Jordan won a ring in Washington, retired, and never mentioned the Bulls? Interesting to think about. Also, Jordan wouldn't have written 10 pages on Instagram, most likely. Different styles. I'm done. It's time. Scott, you suck. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Are Tom Brady and Michael Jordan kind of the GOAT of GOATs? You know, if we just talk about, I know people hate talking about GOATs in general, but, Jordan with the number of rings, but also his competitive spirit, what he meant to the game. He was the first guy to have a shoe deal, to have all the endorsements. Could it have been that maybe Michael Jordan was in the right place at the right time? I mean, LeBron James has credited Michael Jordan opening the door for other guys like him and Kobe to come through. And so, but I just mean from a business standpoint, if you look at what Michael Jordan was able to do, was he in the right place at the right time, or did he just have the right agents around him to make sure he capitalized on all the stuff? It's an interesting kind of debate there because it was, pre-social media days. That's also kind of an interesting thing too, because there also is kind of a mystique around Michael Jordan because he wasn't so widely available. There was no Instagram, there was no Twitter for him to jump on and interact with fans, and he still doesn't have that. Have you noticed that? Michael Jordan still does not have any sort of social media stuff. He is kind of like the wizard behind the curtain that he's like a mythical creature. So yeah, and I wonder if that's just part of the draw to Jordan and his legacy, on top of his achievements, of course, too. All right. Writing about Hollywood in 1934. That was an interesting time. Post-Depression area, kind of coming out of the Depression. Or no, was that Depression era? The 30s were Depression era. The 20s were the Roaring 20s, and the 30s were a little dark. And then, of course, we had the war, etc. Sounds interesting. Griffey to Best, good to see you. Brian Shields, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. Mid-Michigan, we have eight inches of snow. Wow, since 4 this morning. That's wild. Yeah, I'm in North Carolina, and last weekend, I believe it was, we ended up getting quite a bit of snow, which is not very normal. Granted, it was only like 3 or 4 inches, and it stayed around for a few days. But for where I am, that was actually kind of a lot of snow. I don't know. What did happen with the groundhog? Yeah, I guess that's true. Inflation. He was making good money for the day, but yeah, you're right. Not like these guys now. Oh, 6 more weeks. Okay. Yeah, different time. But there's crossover with him, though. That's the thing that makes Jordan kind of unique is that, yeah, he was pre-social media, but he has, he had the shoe deals the same way that these new guys have shoe deals. And, the new guys definitely have more opportunities to make money. Jordan didn't have opportunities to make make money off NFTs in his playing days, or he would have sold a lot of NFTs. I think we can agree on that. Hey, why not, Rick? Why not throw it together on a little bit of a lunch break? Why not? Anyone buying Brady cards right now or waiting for the FOMO to die down? That was actually something I was going to ask chat too. Have you noticed an increase in prices? Are they staying the same? Are they going down? Have you seen anything? Yeah, I've got data tools that I use to track stuff, but I'm waiting for it to flush out a little bit over the next few days to try to get some sort of an idea of what it's going to look like, for Brady's stuff. But yeah, now he's going to be transitioning to a guy that's playing that has the potential to do more, to win another Super Bowl, another MVP, blah, blah, blah. To now he is one of these, I love the people that always make fun of my vintage buys of like, hey, he's now a boring vintage play, or he's going to be, because he joins the ranks of the retired. You're not going to be watching him. You're not going to be, seeing if he can add any more accolades to his resume. Let me know what you guys think and what you guys are buying too. Tyler, oh, you're responding. Always buying TB12. Yeah. I'm going to show an example of a card that this is actually like, and I almost bought the exact same card yesterday or the day before for Drew Brees. I actually forgot about the auction and it ended, but this is an example of a card that I would pick up for like a Tom Brady. And there's nothing really special about it. It's not like it's not numbered. It's a 2014 Silver Prism SGC 10. Got it for a good price, again, because of the SGC grade. Got it at a discount from what it would have been in a PSA slab. But this is the type of card that I would like to, the type of card that I would like to see what it looks like down the road, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Because I still think, yes, you have, Tom Brady prices are certainly among the highest in the football card market. But I'm curious to see kind of what that looks like in the future, when I just don't think that he is really appreciated yet. It's kind of like Jordan at the end of his playing days when he was just winning all the time. And, nobody really kind of understood the impact of his career until later, and I think that the same thing is going to happen with Tom Brady. And I'm also kind of collecting, the thing with a Tom Brady, not necessarily this particular card, but I've been looking at other cards. Like, for example, I picked up this 2002 Topps Chrome Drew Brees. Now, I'm a huge Saints fan for people that don't know that. So Brees obviously being a huge kind of a PC guy for me. But so Topps Chrome Black, these are all numbered out of 599, and they're consistent along the years. So this is first year Topps Chrome football. So it's 2002. They also have 2003, 2004, etc. But I've been looking hard at the chrome, the black chrome in particular, because they are numbered, and I just like how they look. I think they look really awesome. But the thing is, like the Tom Brady card, like this set me back. It was maybe $150, $175. The Tom Brady equivalent of this is like a couple $1,000s. So I always kind of do that. I've done the same thing in basketball with LeBron James. Guys that are maybe kind of like the second tier, to some of the GOATs. I look at that with Brees being a PC for me. It kind of works out well. But I've looked at other guys, whether it be Favre or Peyton Manning, etc. Because I collect football cards, and I think those guys are always going to be relevant. But the Brady prices are up here, and then all the other Hall of Fame, all the like recent Hall of Famers that we're talking about, the future Hall of Famers, they're like way down here price wise. It's just kind of interesting. All right, I've been blabbering. Let me go back up to the comments, the chat. Oh, nice. Okay, Giannis Prism rookie card the other night. Pretty stoked. Now, is that the base Prism or the silver Prism, Corey? I know the silver Prism is serious dough, but the base Prism is a really nice card. And you've noticed that, like with a lot of that stuff, has come down in price quite a bit from where it was, and where it was a year ago, essentially. Yeah, he did retire 3 times. Will Tom Brady do that? Will he do the flip-flopping thing? I don't think that he will. Tom Brady has all sorts of things going on. I mean, he's got his autograph company, which is like the NFT autograph type company that he's got. He's got all sorts of different things that he's working on. So I don't think that Tom's going to be slowing down at all post-career. This is exactly right. This is exactly right. Collectors may forget basketball was not popular when Jordan came up, and you had a lot of TV stations not showing the sport. I remember I totally agree with this. I remember being excited to catch a Bulls game, in the middle of the week on, the local station or whatever, but it wasn't the same. It just was not the same. When 86 Fleer basketball came out, they struggled to sell it. Really, and when we had Dr. Beckett on, Brad and I, this past, a week and a half ago, his magazine, do I still have it next to me? I do. This is what really kind of put basketball cards on the map. Now, if we look, this is from 1990. Yeah, March, April 1990. This is the first issue of Beckett for basketball cards. In 1990, Jordan had not won a championship yet. He won it in 91. That was his first title. And yes, his rookie card was expensive, but it wasn't even in the same universe as what it is today. There was no grading, at that point. So you're talking about raw cards. Just a very, very different time, but it was really the Beckett basketball card magazine where you were checking kind of the price guide for different things. This was what really kind of put basketball cards on the map, in my opinion. Now, granted, I was 9 when this magazine came out, so I wasn't an adult to kind of get an adult's point of view on the market at that point. But yeah, that's where, if you really look at the long game for a lot of like sports cards, and that's what I'm trying to do with a lot of this stuff, because I look at where, basketball cards and baseball cards are very, popular. Football cards have kind of waned behind. But if you look at the revenues, the NFL generates more revenue than any other sports league in the U.S. So of all of these sports leagues, and football cards just have not really kind of caught up. But I think that this young talent, I'm really excited about this young talent that's come into the league. And I think that that's going to generate some excitement around football cards. And now look, yes, we have the injury bugs and all that stuff. We don't have to collect, if you're trying to, not lose money, you don't have to collect running backs that are currently playing. You can collect running backs that have already finished their career, that already have a legacy. I posted this one on Instagram this morning, but it's just an example of a rare insert. This was 1 out of 216 packs back in 1999 with a 10-card checklist. So you can do the math. This is it was not an easy card to pull in 99. It's kind of a cool it's an on-card on football auto, something different. But it's cool stuff like that. So with football just kind of being I would say it's by far my favorite sport. I like the other sports, but football is the one I enjoy watching the most. And then I see kind of football cards don't really get kind of that same sort of love. Outside of Tom Brady, outside of Herbert, certainly, and Burrow, of course, are hot right now. But historically, and you look at the cards that PSA is grading and SGC, you've got basketball and Pokemon cards like way up here, and then you've got baseball cards, obviously, and then football cards is kind of down the line, down the list. I like that card too. NY Davy. So there's that number 100 and number 150. I actually like both of those cards, but I agree. It's kind of that green border. Yeah, I like them. I like them as well. I really like, especially also hearing, you could look at it both ways with Fanatics buying Topps. You could say, well, they're going to continue making Topps Chrome. So, what does that mean for kind of the older stuff? And I was thinking that legacy kind of continuing on, with Topps Chrome football cards in the future. I do think that eventually people kind of look back. It's going to sound crazy, but 2002 Topps Chrome eventually is going to be considered vintage. For you older guys that are watching, exactly what I'm talking about. People are calling 80s basketball vintage and 90s vintage. Yeah, that just shows you our age. So, that's going to happen where Tom Brady cards are vintage. Give it time. Thank you, Rick. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's a no-brainer for me. It's really, really a no-brainer. I'm not one that really follows the trends of what's cool right now. I'm really thinking of what makes sense in my mind over a long period of time. And SGC is a long-standing company. They've been around 20 plus years. They have a solid reputation. I don't know. I can't say enough about them, but I also like PSA too. I have PSA slabs. Plenty of PSA slabs. BGS, love their slabs. So it's not as if, it's SGC or nothing. But if there is a price discrepancy on the same exact card, then I'm interested in that difference. I'm paying attention to it. 2006 Topps Heritage Chrome Brady. I would have to go back and look at it. I'm sure it's one that I've looked at. Hockey Fan 94. because I've done kind of a deep dive into a lot of the refractors, the different prism cards. Show you a couple of examples. I'm a nerd for orange, so stay with me. I'm a nerd for orange, but if you can see, it's kind of like the 2016, or is this 15? 16 prism orange, 17, and then one's in the one in the 9.5 was, of course, dramatically less than a PSA 9 and, of course, a PSA 10. And orange, I'm just kind of a geek for that orange prism. It's not a color match. Some people might think it's kind of ugly, but it's numbered. And I kind of, again, like I just want to see, what that looks like. Let me grab a few more here. We'll just keep this Tom Brady train rolling. Hold on a second. Okay, so this one just a fairly plain 2017 Select base, nothing crazy. So basic, right? So basic. 2014 Bowman Chrome Refractor in a 9. And some people say, like, why not just splurge for a 10? But the thing that's kind of interesting about a lot of these is they just aren't getting graded. Like, people aren't grading them. I'm wondering how many are actually in decent condition, how many people were, kept them in decent condition. Because if you look at the pop reports on a lot of the stuff, it's not that it's not out there. It's just that there's not high numbers on these pop reports for this stuff. Now, I'm sure with Tom Brady stuff, we'll see an increase over the next year. And I kind of like the stuff that's 2010 and older too. Like, this is a base card, but not expensive. When I got it, 2007 Bowman Chrome and a PSA 10. This one is numbered out of 49. Again, like, didn't break the bank. 2017 Optic. It's red, so it's kind of like that Bucks color match. I know he's not in the Bucks uniform, but that stuff. And again, I did not break the bank on a lot of this stuff. One of my favorites is this Upper Deck Reflections. This one's numbered out of 99, I believe, BGS 9. But again, if it's numbered, I don't care if it's a BGS 8, BGS 9. I'm all over that. If I can get a discount and it's just a beautiful card. Fortunately, I was able to get this National Treasures before the prices really started going kind of ballistic. And I got this a while ago. Anything that's like game used. Yeah, this is game worn material. So any game used Tom Brady stuff has really gone up in price. So I wanted to get something. I actually got this at the Dallas Card Show. Copper Prism, numbered out of 75 Select. I've showed this on the channel before, but got a pretty good deal on this one. But again, I want to see what this looks like in 10 years, 15 years. When that next generation comes up and they're looking at like the GOAT, kind of like how people now are buying Michael Jordan that never watched Michael Jordan play, that type of stuff. All right, sorry guys, I'm going back to chat. Do you think Denver Broncos will get Aaron Rodgers this offseason? I've heard a lot of talk about that. Honestly, I can't figure out where anybody's going. I was trying to think of like who would be where would be a good landing spot, because Aaron Rodgers said he does not want to go to a rebuild. So, but what does that mean? He's already on a pretty good team. So which team would he go to that's better than the one that he's at now? I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to figure it out. Which team's going to give him a better shot? Is Aaron Rodgers going to go to the AFC where there's now more QB talent? Do you really want to go to the AFC? And then which NFC team would you want to go to when you were just on the number 1 seeded Packers team? I don't know why he would leave Green Bay unless he just wants to change of pace. But right now, I'm just not thinking of a team that makes a lot of sense as far as an upgrade to his current situation. I've got a few of this card. If you're talking about that blue rookie card, I'm a big fan of that one. I just like the way it looks, and it's a color match to the Patriots stuff. I've got, I think, 3 or 4 of those cards and BGS slabs. That 2000 Upper Deck is very, very cool. Oh, the Giannis base. Yeah, that's a great card. I love that stuff. Yeah, man, that's it. That's where it all started. That's where it all started. 1990 with Beckett Magazine. A raw mint Jordan. Let's take a look. A raw mint Jordan in 1990. I actually did a video on this where I went through the Jerry West and the Oscar Robertson and the Wilt Chamberlain rookies. The articles in here are hilarious too. All right. If I can find it. All right, here we go. All right, 86, 87 Fleer. All right, a mint copy estimated at $175. $175 in 1990. Maybe one that's a little like mid-level grade, $100. $100. That's where we were at. You could say those appreciated a little bit. 2020 NFL draft class was sick. Yep. And I kind of wonder if there's going to be any surprise QBs that come out of this draft coming up, because it's, everyone's saying like there's no quarterbacks in this upcoming draft, but who knows? Maybe there'll be one or two that kind of sneaks through. Kobe rookie graded $70. Nice, cool. Wow, very, very cool. I know it doesn't. It's kind of like, it's kind of wonky, I guess, compared to what, it doesn't exactly mesh well with the Patriots gear, but I just like them. I don't know. So Joseph, I used Bobbles and Ball Cards, and they have been doing it for, I think, 3 years, 2.5 years. They have a very good reputation. They have a Facebook group. You can find them, and I believe it's you can probably just search for it, but it's Bobbles and Ball Cards SGC. It's actually in the title, I think, SGC group sub, Bobbles and Ball Cards. But check that out, because I think that I have my first submission in with him, and I did a video just kind of talking about the fact that I'm using him. I've had a good experience so far. Obviously, it's just my first submission, so take that with a grain of salt. But there's a lot of people that had commented on that video saying that they've had a really good experience. That's the only one that I have as far as a referral goes, and that's the one that I'm using, Bobbles and Ball Cards. Nice. HGA SGC Brady's at the show in Mooresville Saturday. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I don't have any of his Topps Finest yet, but that's on the radar as well. Yeah, there's some really nice, shiny Topps Finest. I agree with you, David. Yeah, it's actually, and Ryan has this right. The star rookie card back then was the one that was more heralded. That was the one that was more wanted by a lot of collectors, was that 84 star card. And then it got all messed up because, there was, well, I believe the guy that ran Star, there was speculation that he had kept the printers running. There was also replicas out there that were very difficult to tell apart. That's why PSA does not grade Star cards. And actually, when we talk about eBay's new authentication, I'm sure you heard that they're going to be doing authentication. I made a video or two on that as well. And the set that they have excluded from authentication as an option is Star basketball. What do you think hurt card values more, the high print runs or the fact that starting in the 90s, people started grading and started taking really good care of their cards, making it easier to find 10s? That's a really excellent point. Yeah, that's a really excellent point. And I think that's probably why you have more, when we're looking at kind of the big value, the chase cards, people are chasing 90s insert cards. You'll hear that a lot, whether we're talking about baseball or basketball or football, doesn't really matter, or hockey or any kind of sport. They're looking for the PMGs and the jambalayas and those things, in part because, and I've done this too, I'm doing this on the football card side, where I'm looking for cards that were a tough pack pull, because they were overprinted. A lot of that stuff was overprinted. And even if it wasn't, even if there was a set that wasn't necessarily overprinted, it's all relative. There has to be demand for it. But like, this is an example. You see these on the basketball side too. This is 97 metal. This is an Emmitt Smith card. These were 1 out of 360 packs. It's a 10 card checklist. So if you, again, you do the math, I showed the Barry earlier. This is from 99. So these are examples of 90s inserts that were tough pack pulls that weren't necessarily graded, and weren't necessarily taken care of, So I know it's going to sound strange. I actually have, hold on, stay with me. So here's the same card as the Barry. It's a Peyton Manning. It actually has a pretty mean crease on it. So I got it at a discount because it's not in very good shape, but I'm not even really worried about it. I'm not even really worried about the overall condition, because if you look, like the Michael Jordan green PMG that Nat Turner bought for $400,000, this was a couple years ago when that was a crazy amount of money. Now that card is $1 million plus, most likely. That card is just authentic, or it's altered. I think it was graded altered, authentic altered, whatever. Basically, it's a real card, but it has been altered. It didn't matter the grade because it's numbered out of 10. It was the scarcity that mattered and how difficult it was to pull that card. And so that's where I think that, people that are going back in time, yes, they're buying rookie cards and higher grades. So if we're talking about even junk wax era, if you're talking about Ken Griffey Jr., 89 upper deck, PSA 10s still have, some sort of demand for them. But outside of those 10s, and the price, of course, drops off dramatically because of those print runs. But yeah, I think that'll be interesting. You make a good point kind of moving forward as to, people have been taking care of cards, and then it's just going to kind of matter of how scarce is that card? How scarce was that card to begin with? And then what's the grade attached to it? And those are kind of going to be differentiators. That's an interesting question though. But in the end, it's just the demand curve is always moving. That's the thing that's really tricky. When you look at the last 2 years, people can say, sure, you had stimulus money, big part of that. The other part is everyone's reconnecting with their childhood. They're stuck at home. There's like this black swan event where everything is coming together, where demand comes up here, then it goes down, then it goes up, it goes down. And then, of course, it's nuanced even with different sets, different cards. So it might be that, soccer cards are down, football cards are up, or vice versa, or whatever. That's what makes it fun, though. Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I also kind of like the numbered stuff from the late 90s and early 2000s, because that was not commonplace. It wasn't commonplace to have numbered cards like that, 20 years ago. It just wasn't. Now it's very commonplace. Now you open a box and half the box is a numbered card. It's not special anymore because everything's numbered. Back then it was special though. Yeah, print runs were out of this world. People talk about the print runs today. It wasn't even in the same stratosphere as what it was back then. There are more sets, so that is true. There are definitely more sets than there was back then. But the limited sets that they did have back then, they printed them just, out of this world. There was never a time where you were waiting for the guy to bring cards to the Walmart or the Target. There was always cards there. That's awesome, Brian. Very cool. And actually, this is something that I want to wait for. So part of the reason why I'm buying like the black chrome that's numbered is because I do think that there's a lot of those green borders out there. And I think that a lot of those people are going to go out and get them graded, especially with grading prices coming back down. You can see it with PSA getting caught up. SGC is caught up. They're grading cards at, $25, $30 a card, whatever it is. So I think the population on this stuff, especially with Brady retiring, you're going to see kind of a deluge of people trying to get that stuff graded and get it sold, frankly. So I'm going to be pretty picky, I think, with the Brady stuff. And I'm also just going to be patient with the Brady stuff. Like I said, with that, this is a very long-term play for me. Very long-term play for Tom Brady. David Robinson Hoops was probably just as much as Jordan back then. I remember that being a $50 card at the card shop. That 89 Hoops David Robinson rookie card was not cheap. Let's see. $15, actually. You know what's funny, though? The Beckett said 15. Nobody was selling it for $15 where I was. It was expensive. Now, maybe they weren't actually selling them. Maybe they were having trouble, but the Beckett price guide has it at $15 and $9 for, a lesser copy. But this is also the first issue of the magazine. I should pull out like issue number 5 and see where it was then, because I think it kind of steadily moved up. A lot of speculation of Rodgers on the Steelers. It is a storied program. So, sure. The Titans, interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. They've got skilled players and they have a rowdy defense. Absolutely. The thing is, though, the AFC is brutal. The AFC is getting really tough, whereas the NFC North, where he lives now, not so much. Not so much. Hey, I just pull it out. I pull it out how it is, man. I tried to find you smiling in that 19-minute video and nothing. Gave me nothing to work with. Just scowls the whole time. '99 NFL draft was sick too. Only 2 turned out well. Was supposed to have been the best in history. Tom's first Tom Brady graded, and it looks gem mint to me. Can anyone tell me if that card is bowed a little, if that makes a difference in the grade? I have noticed that those Topps Chrome, that 2002 Topps Chrome cards, I've looked at a bunch of them, and they do seem to have a bow, kind of a little bit of a, and even in the pictures, you can see it on eBay. You can see that that's how they were. I don't know if it's how they were in packs. I don't know, but interesting. Very cool. Garnett PMG. Everyone's all about the PMGs. Oh, yeah. Love the United stuff. That's awesome. 61 Unitas and PSA 8 condition is unreal. Yeah, it's really cool to get some of those old vintage cards. In the higher grades, it's kind of, especially the coloring, if you get some nice coloring, because they have some, there's orange on the, like bright yellow on the Bart Stars, and and there's orange on the, do I have my Unitas? I have a Unitas rookie, but it's not out. I'd have to pull it out. But anyway, if you get a nice graded copy that still has like the nice coloring, it's not faded. Very, very cool. So Jake, I use Comic Book Connection. What I typically do is I will search the set on Google, and then, you get the list, and it'll be Cardboard Connection. I don't know if I said that right the first time. Cardboard Connection, or I think it might be like collectors.com. Beckett.com sometimes has good information if you see that in the search results. But a lot of times that'll give you an idea of, also another thing you can do is search a hobby box on eBay. And a lot of times the pictures, it'll be right there on the box. The pack odds will be right on the box for it. That's what I typically do when I'm trying to figure out, is this insert rare or no? And then of course, another place you could search is Blowout. On the Blowout forums, a lot of times it'll pop up where people are discussing. It'll be really funny too to catch like a Blowout post from like 2009. And it's talking about these, and it's like, oh, I'm going to spend a fortune on this. This is going to cost me $30 to get this, this insert. And nowadays it is not $30. I always think that's funny. A little bit of a time capsule there on the Blowout forum. Yeah, well, kind of ironic. People thought they were taking care of their cards, putting them in binders, in which case they were not. And I was one of those people. I still have sets of cards that are in the binders, in the plastic binders. Not anything super expensive, but I also just like it's like a reader copy for comic books. I just want to be able to go through and take a look at it. I like how it's displayed on the binder. Have my space heater on in here, and it feels like it's 1,000 degrees. It's tough, Mark. It depends on a variety of factors. Are you trying to sell them? Or are you just packing them away? Is it PC where you just want to, is it more of a hold? The older stuff, it's really kind of tough. SGC, from what I've heard from the community, being that PSA does not have a 9.5, this is kind of the feedback, that it's going to be easier to gem a card that's in really good shape. Of course, it's going to vary by card, whatever. But if you're comparing PSA and SGC for a 2003 card, you probably have a better chance of gemming it, and the chat can throw their 2 cents in through PSA than through SGC. But, if you're trying to sell it, you're going to have to wait for PSA. It's going to take a while, most likely, unless they have been getting faster, but you know how that goes. Yeah, definitely did. Yeah, the 89 Hoops Robinson was all over the place. And you had the one where he was like shooting, and then you had the other one where he was holding up the jersey. There was like the variant. What's up, Iconic Trading Cards? Good to see you. Ron to the Steelers. I don't want Rodgers. The Bucks, I'm a Saints fan, so I don't want the Bucks to get another Hall of Fame quarterback. No. Are you kidding me? He can stay out of the NFC South unless he's coming to the Saints. Then he can come. There's no way that we're going to get him, though. He said he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild, and we are quite definitely the definition of a rebuild right now. Not having a QB, not having a coach. My favorite all-time sports card set is 89 Score Football, and I do have a complete set of that one in a binder. And then I've also got just a bunch of copies of graded Barry Sanders 9s, PSA 9s. I've got a bunch of Troy Aikman 9s, Michael Irvin 9s. But yeah, that's just one that as a kid, that was a big chase set for me. So that is my favorite. But the thing that's been really fun getting back into the hobby 4 years ago is I have gotten back and gotten vintage stuff. But also, since I stopped collecting, I was born in 81. I probably stopped collecting really in my teen years, like 94, 95 is when it really shut down for me. And that was right about when they were starting to kick off their memorabilia auto stuff. So you're looking at, there's like 25 years of cards that are pretty cool that I'm catching up on, so I hesitate to say that's my favorite set. It's just that that's the most nostalgic set, I would say, is 89 Score Football. Yep. 2016, before all the craziness. PSA 10 pop by decade. Yeah. I guess it's kind of the natural evolution of grading becoming more and more accepted in the hobby and more people taking part in it. Because if you think about it, when grading started out, it's not like everyone was flocking to buy graded cards. They probably, were in the same boat as, video game, retro game collectors. You see all this, the sealed games, and CIB games, complete in-box video games that are being graded. And everyone's like, oh, this is crazy. That's what it was for sports cards in 1990. And so you have to think it took years for adoption. Years. I mean, you could argue a decade. I don't think that graded cards were really being transacted a lot until we got into the 2000s. If we're talking about it being more of a mainstream thing. And these grading companies have graded more cards over the last 2.5 years than they did in their entire previous history, like going back 20 years. So that should tell you something. Yeah, a lot of different brands. People are like, oh, well, there's a lot of different sets. Panini's putting out all these different sets. Yeah, but in the 90s, you had a zillion different brands that were putting out sets. It's exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, tons of sets. The Beanie Babies doc, really surprised it didn't boom again during the pandemic. I'm a little bit surprised at that too, Tyler. I watched the one on that's on HBO Max. That's a great documentary. I really enjoyed it because I was around during that time when Beanie Babies were hot. I wasn't, I was a kid. I was 13, 14, 15. So it's not like I was big into it, but I was there watching it. And then to see kind of like how it started, the background of it, and all that, I thought that it was cool. Also a cautionary tale too, and things that we can, kind of make comparisons to. Sports cards and Beanie Babies are two very different collectibles, but it does, it is history that can repeat itself if you have kind of a trinket of any kind that catches fire like that. Beanie Babies were kind of the equivalent of like, the Christmas like Teddy Ruxpin. Like what's like a Christmas toy that was red hot, Teddy Ruxpin or the Elmo, dolls or whatever, where it would be like that on like a grand scale, where instead of them selling, a Teddy Ruxpin, they had like different color Teddy Ruxpins, and they only sold a certain amount. They were scarce. That's essentially what a Beanie Baby was. So yeah, that very, very good documentary. Check that out. If you have HBO Max or you can get, free trial or something, watch that. Watch the Beanie Babies documentary. It's great. 58 Jimmy Brown Raw. Well, okay. How does it look? How does it look? I'm always nervous buying vintage cards raw, just because of, any sort of issue with alteration or anything like that or whatever. But I hope it works out good for you, Iconic Trading. If you also kind of know the backstory to the card, I would feel probably much more comfortable buying from like a long-term collection type thing than, maybe a dealer. But that, just depends. Just depends. I like the binders too. I understand that Toploaders and other, things are probably better, one touch. But I just like flipping the pages and looking at them in a binder. Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's not like it just ruins them in a binder. I agree. Yeah, and that's the reason why I don't live in the Midwest, Corey. I'm not interested in, the 0-degree winters or the negative. I don't want to be in Minnesota or anything. Here in North Carolina, you get a nice, you get the hot summers for a couple of months, but then, you get cold winters, but it's only a couple of months. So you're not getting extremes on either side. I lived in Florida for a long time and it was just summer year round. So I'm happy to have some seasons here in North Carolina. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too. I mean, there might be inserts from today that are kind of overlooked as like, oh, those are kind of, dinky little inserts that might have popularity in 10, 15, 20 years. That's kind of the fun of what we do with this is, you're guessing at, you're kind of you're betting on certain players, certain cards, what's going to be of interest to people down the road. And yeah, I think that's going to be, interesting to watch. Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I know I try to draw a balance with it because I also, if I don't necessarily want to, already compete with more people for a card that I'm looking for. So sharing it, while it's good for transparency, it's also not helpful if other people are bidding against you for it. But for the stuff that I'm looking for, though, it's already stuff that people are looking for. So there's going to be competition anyway. 87 Fleer glossy baseball set for straight up. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Will Clark was the man. Absolutely. I remember that. I don't. I don't have any of these, David. No, I don't, unfortunately. Oh yeah, you could play tapes in the Teddy Ruxpin. I forgot that. I forgot about that. I never actually had a Teddy Ruxpin. I had one of my friends had one, but I never had it. I do remember though playing Too Legit to Quit on my little like Walkman thing while I was trying to do sit-ups when I was like 8. And yeah, I remember those days. And then obviously with Vanilla Ice, everybody was listening to that. Oh, nice. Okay. That's cool. I'll have to look that one up. I don't know. I'm sure I've probably seen it, but just to kind of get a view on it. That's kinda tricky, you know, I kinda wonder about Prism stuff. If Panini kinda goes away, if they're not making any more Prism Silvers and the numbered Prism stuff, I like the look of the Prism cards, and, I just kinda I ask myself, down the road, are people going to have a nostalgic feeling for Prism inserts because they're no longer around? Now, wouldn't shock me at all if Fanatics either makes a play for Panini or just licenses out those products with them, cuts a deal with them, and just says, "Hey, we're gonna make it. We'll cut you in on it." That wouldn't shock me, necessarily. But yeah, so I wonder about the Prism stuff, or I guess not just Prism, but Optic, or any of the Panini stuff that's popular. I would say Select, but I would say older Select though, not the 2019 2020 Select is, even it's just with 100 plus parallels or whatever they're doing. I just don't see how. I think maybe some of that, like the gold, the stuff that's numbered out of 5 or 10, the really rare parallels maybe, but I can't imagine that the 2019 2020, unless for like Tom Brady in particular, it being in a Bucks jersey and maybe people want the Bucks stuff, maybe there's collectors for the Tom Brady Bucks stuff. But if we're talking about in general, I think whether it's basketball or football, I think it would probably be the Panini stuff is what I would wonder, because if that stuff goes away, I do think there will be in 20 years a generation that gets nostalgic about that. In the same way that we have, where it's like, oh, now we have disposable income and we're going back and we're looking at like what was cool back then. I think that there's going to be that same deal that happens, that cycles around in 20, 25 years. I do think that. Yeah, this is fair enough. Like, that's what I mean. I mean, there is a production question mark with these, but, if it depends on the card, I'm sure. But, and maybe it won't depend. And it also depends on your price point getting in on the stuff. If you're getting in at the right price point, then over time might be totally fine. Plus, if you're collecting them as his Tampa rookies and you love them, then that's easy. All right. Congrats, Corey. Except for me, Kamikaze. I did not have one. I was born in 81. I didn't have one. It's a balmy 1 degree and sunny. Sounds glorious. Yeah, I think that's gonna be the big question is the price of grading is still high in comparison. We have to remember that what was it only a year ago that PSA grading was $10, $8, $12 for a bulk sub? So now we're all excited about a $50 price point. I think that there's probably still room to come down on the grading prices. We'll see. I assume that to be true. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up here in about 3 or 4 minutes. So throw anything else in the chat that you want to talk about. 89 score pack by pack. No, no, no. I bought a complete set. This is when I got back in early 2018. I bought a complete set of 89 score for, oh man, it was like $60 in a binder for all of them, including the Barry Sanders, the Troy Aikman. But raw, those are not rare cards, but it was a complete set. So yeah, it was either 50 or $60 on eBay. Always talk about how PSA is stingy on giving tens and recommends, but the recent gem rate data in your earlier video. Yeah, yeah, no, it shows PSA having a higher gem rate. So one thing that people were saying is that the SGC has the 9.5 grade that's not being factored into that, which so it makes it look like this was the pushback on that data was that it makes it look like SGC has a tougher grade, but it's because they're not taking into account the SGC 9.5. So it makes it look as if PSA is easier getting a 10. Also, with that data, you have to take it with a grain of salt. There's always usually nuance, to those things, but good for discussion points. A lot of the feedback I've been hearing with PSA is just you have a lot of new graders there, and if you have new employees, new graders, I would assume, I think everyone assumes as you're training, you err on the side of tougher than lenient, because you want to make sure that it's accurate as possible. But and so that's why I think people have said, I've heard this throughout the community, that they believe that PSA has become tougher to gem on, is because of that. They have new staff that they've trained up, and maybe they're looking at things a little tougher than previously. But of course, that's speculation. Maybe it's exactly the same. Who knows? My dad didn't let me have stuffed animals. That's funny. The Fisher Price cassette player. Yep, Motley Crue. They were jam. So price doesn't matter, other than I want to get as many as I can. So price matters in that sense. Yeah. True, true. Yeah, Breeze is an interesting one because he's never really gotten any sort of love. I mean, a little bit. I mean, he had to break the all-time passing record, I mean, he's the one that broke Peyton Manning's touchdown passing record. But still, it's not as if the hobby really looks at him as, I don't think a lot of the hobby looks at him as a top 10 all-time quarterback. They certainly don't look at him as a top five. And maybe not. Maybe he's not in the top five, but top 10, you could make an argument for top 10 for him. But he's but you're right. The prices do not reflect what, not even in the same stratosphere as Tom Brady in a lot of sense. And I happen to be a Saints fan, so it makes it easy for me. I'm kind of hedging a little bit, getting into some of those similar cards, as those expensive Brady cards, just for Breeze and some of the other guys, and that's kind of fun. Uh, Me too. Me too. I agree, especially when there's a giant discount, because of it. I've said it a million times. I don't think there's a huge differential between the actual grading at SGC, BGS, and PSA. Now, PSA does offer more of a airtight guarantee, which is worth the difference in price for a lot of people. I understand that. That makes sense. And I think that is what really separates PSA from the other companies. But as far as actually the actual grades and the accuracy of the grades, I'm really good. I think all three companies do a good job. So if there's a huge price difference between SGC 9.5 and a PSA 9 or something, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, people forget that Montana almost had the Chiefs there, almost. He was doing good things with the Chiefs. Yeah, I got this at the Raleigh Card Show. That's autographed by the first ever guy that played Jason in the original Friday the 13th. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then this one, if I can point to it right, this one is the Simpsons card I got from Donnie B Collectibles. There's another one up top that's a Griffey set. And then this is an antique football. That's like 100-year-old football. Maybe not 100, maybe like 70, 80-year-old football. I got it from an antique dealer. I actually met him at the National and then found out that he lives nearby. He actually lives like 45 minutes from me, because I was like, oh, I want this stuff. He's like, but I can't ship it. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. And then I was like, where are you located? Oh, just so happens he's basically down the street from me. So that was cool. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I love all that old stuff. Oh, I just pulled that. I got it off of eBay or something. The Mike Tyson punch out picture. Yeah, behind me in my videos. It's signed by Mike Tyson. I've got the Beckett certificate of authenticity, and I just like the game. So the fact that you've got the game picture, and then it's signed by Tyson. It's just kind of a cool piece. I thought unique. Something different. Yeah, and you kind of make a good point. I've heard other people say like, "Hey, if you get an SGC 10, you can crack it and send that to PSA, and you'll probably get a PSA 10. So, and they're almost treating that as a pre-grade. They'll pay $25, $30 for the SGC. If it comes back, great. They'll crack it and send that to PSA, which I guess that's one strategy to employ or deploy. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to stick with the SGC slabs. First off, I don't trust myself in trying to crack a slab without destroying the card. But then also, I like the SGC tucks. I like the slabs, and I'm just holding on to it. Oh, people they're gonna argue with you on the Montana over Brady, but that's fair enough. Montana was a beast. Yeah, so and I understand this thought. It's kind of like he's not an active player anymore, so he's going to turn into the Joe Montana or the Johnny Unitas or the Fran Tarkenton. Or now, granted, I understand that he has the stats and all that, but the point is that he's not playing, and there's going to be new exciting guys that are playing. We're all going to be watching Mahomes battle it out with Herbert and Burrow and all these young guys, these young exciting players. Jameis Winston with the Saints. Oh yeah, we're going to be playing in the Super Bowl here soon. Nah, probably not, but all right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. 56 minutes. Got to get back to it. But thank you very much for joining me today for this kind of little impromptu live stream. I appreciate it as always. Well, I try to do these. I'll try to do them once a week if possible, just so I can have some one-on-one time with you guys. Tonight, Brad, the Comeback Card Investor, and I, we are supposed to have on Raphael from Culture Collision, the guy that's throwing the Atlanta show. Will be there to talk about it. I'm going to be at that show. So I'm excited for that one. So definitely join us on the Comeback Card Investor channel at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. And we will talk to you guys later. Have an amazing rest of your day. I'll see you later, guys.